Hello guys, we are going to talk a drama thriller film called Sightless from 2020. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. The sounds of police sirens are heard. Ellen goes out to the balcony, climbs over the railing, and jumps down a few seconds later. A month earlier, Ellen had regained consciousness with bandages over her eyes. When the doctor removes the bandages, she is shocked to find that her eyes cannot see anything. In a nightmare, a masked man sprays something in her eyes. The doctor explains that it is liquid chemicals and that the patient will remain blind forever. Ellen is shocked. Detective Bryce asks her what happened. Her phone and violin worth $500,000 have disappeared from the scene. Ellen is sure that it was not just an attack. The stranger attacked her on purpose. The police officer says that they are investigating and checking suspects, including her ex-husband. The attack may be related to her past fame in the music world. Soon after, she calls Brett, who has rented an apartment for her and hired a caregiver for 2 months until he comes to town. The next day, Ellen wakes up in her new apartment to the sound of police sirens, hears a knock on the door, and Clayton, a highly trained caregiver, stands at the door. He describes the situation inside and leaves as she says she doesn't need anything. When Ellen gets up to look around the room, the unexpected noise from Clayton in the kitchen startles her. The boyfriend explains that he will come at the same time every day and teach her how to live her new life as independently as possible. When Clayton leaves, Ellen tries to call her friend Sasha without success, leaving her a message that she is lonely here. The girl constantly has nightmares about that terrible night. When she wakes up, she thinks her eyes are bleeding, but it's water dripping from the roof. Clayton returns and brings a caged bird with him. He suggests that she use her imagination and decide for herself what color her new pet will be. Ellen moves more confidently around the apartment. She is surprised that on one side of the window she can hear many sounds and the noise of passing cars, and on the other side there is complete silence. Clayton turns on a voicemail from Detective Bryce, who says that they found the stranger's shoe prints at the crime scene, but no fingerprints. Ellen tells Clayton that her ex-husband stole a lot of money from different people and is now serving a 15-year sentence in prison. The boy's attempt to remind her of her past glory days leads to aggression on her part, because Ellen lost her love of music after she got married. When Clayton leaves, she turns on a tune through the speakers and learns to walk around the room with a cane. At night, she wakes up when someone breaks into the apartment. Ellen tries to call for help, but to no avail. She checks the house and, finding no one, closes the door. The bird cage has a scarf over it, even though she didn't do it. Ellen can't sleep for a long time and hears screams behind the wall. The next day, Ellen complains to Clayton that 2 people were arguing so loudly that they were right in her apartment. The boyfriend explains that with the loss of her sight, her other senses have become much stronger. Clayton offers to go outside together, but the girl refuses. When Clayton leaves, she doesn't call her neighbor and wants to leave her an invitation to have tea, but changes her mind. However, she is stopped by a strong draft coming from the neighbor's door, and she decides to leave the invitation anyway. Later, Ellen asks Clayton why the neighbor's balcony door was open on such a windy day, but he quickly changes the subject. When Ellen asks why Clayton chose this profession, he replies that his mother was seriously ill, and he was constantly taking care of her because his father was constantly drinking. The sick mother made small cages and liked to keep different birds in them. Everyone Clayton takes care of sees him in different roles, but Ellen is destined for his scariest manifestation because he is real with her. Ellen wants to see the boy, and he lets her touch his face. Clayton leans in to kiss the girl, but the noise of the elevator reminds him to leave. In the evening, Lana's neighbor comes in after reading the note. She brazenly smokes, even though Ellen has forbidden her to do so. Lana asks her what it's like to lose her eyesight. Ellen angrily replies that she didn't lose anything because it was taken away from her. Ellen asks how she knows she has lost her sight. Lana is nervous and wants to leave, but Ellen stops her. The neighbor is crying and admits that she knows Ellen heard her screaming. Ellen tries to touch her face, suspecting that Lana is lying about her age, and feels a fresh, large scar on her face. Lana whispers, "Don't trust anyone," and runs home. And Ellen follows her until she stops when she hears her neighbor's husband coming up the elevator. Ellen calls Clayton and explains that Russo, Lana's husband, is a terrible person. The guy replies that he met the man in the hallway today, and he apologized for the noise, saying that his wife was not feeling well. After calling Detective Bryce, the police come to the neighbor's house. Later, the detective calls Ellen back and says that the neighbors are fine. He adds that Lana had tried to harm herself before, but her scar had long since healed. According to the policeman, the neighbor is 48 years old. Since Lana did not complain about her husband's beatings, the police cannot do anything. Ellen cries out of helplessness. She notices that similar sounds from outside are repeated every day at the same time. She tells Clayton about it, but he is sure it is a coincidence. He reassures her, and she holds his hand to her chest. In the evening, in the bathroom, Ellen recalls the events of that terrible night again and wants to go to another world, but restrains herself. Ellen uses voice search to find information about her neighbor's husband on the internet. Hearing the noise of the elevator and thinking that Lana has returned, she goes out into the hallway, but it turns out to be Russo. The man hears the results of the voice search, approaches the girl's door and shouts that he will complain to the building manager, hoping that there will be one less problematic woman in the building. Clayton says he can no longer accept payment from the girl because he likes her so much. The guy tries to kiss Ellen, but she pulls away and suggests that they keep their relationship professional. Clayton gets upset and leaves. Later, Ellen tries to call Sasha again without success. Suddenly, the door opens. The girl thinks that Clayton has returned, but it turns out to be a masked stranger who attacks her and begins to strangle her. An ambulance doctor revives the girl. She shows him her neck, but he sees nothing unusual. Clayton comes in next and is surprised to hear that the girl has been attacked again by the same perpetrator. He is sure that Ellen has a drinking problem, but she doesn't want to hear anything about it. Detective Bryce tries to understand the situation. He asks how well the girl knows her friend Sasha, since at the crime scene they found shoe prints half a size smaller than Ellen's. Sasha suddenly left the city, and 6 years ago she was accused of assaulting a colleague, so she is potentially dangerous. Ellen claims that Sasha attacked her today wearing the same mask as she did that day, because she felt the same breath. But according to Bryce, they reviewed the surveillance footage, and no one has come to her house since Clayton. The detective pounds on the table and walks away, saying that her perceptions don't always match reality. In the morning, Ellen gives Clayton the day off, planning to call her brother. She records a voice message to say goodbye. She apologizes to her brother for distancing herself from him because of her marriage. She apologizes to Clayton for dragging him into the whole thing. Later, she apologizes to Sasha for her husband who stole from her. What frightens Ellen the most is that no one believes her, not even herself. She is locked in her mind, like in a house without windows. Ellen jumps off the balcony and wakes up a moment later downstairs. She gets up and realizes that she is locked in like a caged bird. The walls are made of soundproof material, and the sounds of the city are coming from the speakers above. She manages to run to the elevator doors, but the buttons don't work. Ellen begins to panic. After calming down a bit, she goes to her neighbor. Ellen realizes that she knows something and asks her to come over. She opens the water and asks what this place is. Lana replies that there are many microphones and cameras in this house. She adds a strange phrase, "You saved them." But she doesn't have time to answer the main question, because Russo takes the woman home. Almost immediately, Clayton arrives with a smile, puts a bag with a special dinner on the table and says he is a personal chef. Noticing a wound on the girl's arm, he asks to see it, but Ellen screams at him and demands to know the truth, realizing that everyone around her is a liar, except Lana, who didn't have time to tell the truth. The guy replies that both Lana and Ellen are patients, and she is undergoing rehabilitation here, paid for by her brother. She is not introduced to the real events so that she can return to normal life as quickly as possible, as she develops severe post-traumatic stress disorder after losing her sight. Ellen admits that she needs help and cries in her boyfriend's arms. Before dinner, Clayton gives her a violin. Ellen says she gave up playing music because of her husband. The boy wants to kiss the girl, but a sharp sound stops him. He says he will be back in a couple of minutes. Ellen suddenly realizes that the doctor at the hospital and Detective Bryce have a lot in common with Clayton. She remembers Clayton saying that he plays different roles for different patients. She realizes that the people she has met are different manifestations of Clayton, and that's why Lana said, "Don't trust anyone." Ellen offers to have a drink in honor of a special dinner and deliberately drops the glass on the floor to distract the guy and hits him twice hard on the head. The girl takes his keys, opens the door to the neighboring apartment, and finds all of Clayton's costumes on the coat rack, including the mask he wore when he attacked her. Ellen hears Lana and enters her room, which is set up like a hospital room, while Clayton screams and looks for her around the room. Ellen asks Lana to help her get out, but the girl says that this is her home, and her brother Clayton is her only living relative. Hearing her brother's screams, Lana panics and whispers to the girl that the only way out is through the vent in Clayton's room. Ellen goes out into the hallway trying to find a way out. A guy drags her into the room and ties her up. When asked what happened to him, Clayton says that when his mother died, his father made him watch him destroy cages with birds inside. When his son started screaming, his furious father put a collar on him and locked him in the basement for 3.5 years. He was saved only by imagination and his sister, who played him the melodies his mother loved to listen to. It is this music that Ellen plays. She became a light in the darkness for him, and he created this home for her. Clayton adds that he will be anything for her. Ellen pretends to believe the boy, but grabs a taser and beats him. She quickly finds a vent, but it is very narrow. However, inside, she finds the chemicals that Clayton used to blind her. When she tries to find a way out, the kidnapper attacks her again. Then Ellen pours the chemicals on his face and blinds him, taking revenge in the same way. Lana helps the girl get free. 6 months pass. Ellen finally overcomes her fears after losing her eyesight, picks up her violin, and finally goes on stage.